It's been 1 year since I cashed in the inaugural WPT World Championship event for $99,600, which was my biggest cash at the time. It was bittersweet to get knocked out in 35th out of almost 3,000 entrants, but the moment has come to see if we can improve upon our accomplishment in this year's event that has the largest live guarantee of all time at $40 million. We're back at the Wynn in Las Vegas. Andrew and I registered a few hours into Day 1B with aspirations of getting our name on the Mike Sexton Champions Cup. We're not alone, as thousands of others come from all over the world to put up the $10,400 buy-in in hopes of turning it into millions. We get our chips for bullet number 1. A lot of how well we'll do in the tournament will come down to our table draw. After getting settled with $100,000 worth of chips in front of us, we see the opponents. The only player I recognize is Ping Lu, who's a high-stakes cash game and tournament player. He's sitting to the right of the dealer. When I don't recognize many players, it's usually a good thing. Now we just need the deck to cooperate. As always, I put updates on Instagram so that people can follow along in real time how I'm doing as the event progresses. I can't get anything going after a few levels. I lose a big pot with Ace-King to a surprise turn set from the opponent to lose the majority of my stack. We pick up Ace-Queen offsuit not long after and 3-bet rip it for about 15 big blinds. The initial pre-flop raiser tank calls the jam with King-Jack of diamonds. We get it in as a favorite, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna win.
Don't do it to me. No. Nice hand, nice hand.
The opponent flopped a pair of kings and held, even with 4 hearts out there, to knock me out of the event, causing me to lose a 5-figure buy-in. You're probably wondering what the rest of this video is about. Luckily, I've got tons of videos of Marvin that I've collected over the years that are perfect for you cat lovers out there. Okay. No, this tournament is too good to not give it another shot, but it's a big buy-in. I fire my second and final bullet no matter what the following day in the Day 1C flight. I'm hoping that we can get a similar table draw as we did in the first attempt, only this time we'll hopefully run better. That's not what happens at all. Here's a look at who we'll be battling with today. There's Nacho Barbero. 2 doors down from him is Jason Kuhn. Then on my direct right, it's Adrian Mateos. These guys are some of the absolute best players in the world. This looks a lot more like a final table for a super high roller event rather than a large field Day 1. Nacho finished the year 2nd in the global poker rankings, and you don't have to go too much farther down to see Jason Kuhn in 5th. Adrian Mateos is ranked 26th. It's absurd to be sitting with all these guys and to basically have them all in a row. At least they're on my right. The draw got lots of attention from other players in the room and the media. It was given the nickname the Table of Doom. All I can do is play my best to try and wait for our table to break so that I can get seated somewhere else with opponents who are certain to be less skilled. I make it to dinner with a healthy amount of chips that's well over starting stack. Then I run cold for an extended period of time. It's not the worst thing to run cold at a table of studs early on in an event. Finally, I pick up pocket queens onto the gun +1. I'm in raised to 4,000. The cutoff 3 bets to 13,000. He has a shorter stack of only 25 big blinds. I 4-bet jam. The opponent snap calls with pocket kings. It's a huge cooler, but we haven't made a set in a while. The flop comes King 6-3 all clubs. The opponent probably hadn't flopped a set in a while either. At least we still have a decent amount of hope since we've got the flush draw. That hope dissipates quickly as the turn is the King of Hearts, giving the opponent quads to get the double up through me. Not only is my table ridiculously tough, I'm getting coolered, and now I've got a short stack. Historically, it's not a great combo. I'm not going down without a fight though. I stay patient, and with only 2 more levels left in the day, I grind the stack up to 63,000. Sure, it's not that many big blinds, and we've still got less than starting stack, but I've increased the chip count by about 40% from the low point. Finally, our table breaks, but it might be too late for me to get anything going and have a real shot to run deep since we've got less than 15 big blinds. We're going to need to make a move if we want to stay alive. We pick up Ace-5 of diamonds in the big blind. The button raises to 10,000. We've got 54,000 total in the stack. We could be up against all kinds of worse hands. I risk it all and 3-bet rip it. The opponent calls and disappointingly has us notch with Ace-6 offsuit. It's a bit unfortunate. I haven't won an all-in yet with either bullet. I'll need to win one here, otherwise my WPT World Championship run is over. The flop comes 10-3-3 with 2 diamonds. We pick up the flush draw and have a ton of outs to chop. The turn is the 4 of clubs, giving us a straight draw, which actually helps us out a lot because we're now guaranteed to either chop or win unless one of the last 3 remaining 6s comes out. A deuce will give us a straight, a diamond gives us a flush, and a 3, 4, or any card higher that isn't a diamond will give us a chop. The river is the 5 of clubs, giving us the double up. Chops are okay, but winning outright is much cooler, and we desperately needed it just to make it through to day 2. Even with the double up, we're not exactly flourishing. We at least have slightly more than starting stack though. The last level of the night begins, blinds are 3,000, 5,000, less than half the field remains, and a lot more are about to bust. It's been a slow start, but if we can catch heat now and the blinds are bigger, we can potentially finish the day with a healthy stack. Next we're dealt pocket kings under the gun +2. I raised to 11,000. The opponent on our left in middle position 3 bets at 27,000. Okay dude, let's see how much you really like your hand. I 4-bet jam for 128,000 total. The opponent snap calls with no hesitation. I already know it's aces. We've been running into coolers all tournament. This time, I'm lucky to be wrong with my assessment. The opponent actually has ace-king offsuit. We've got a big lead, but we still need to fade an ace, and I'm not all that confident. The flop comes 7-6-4 with 2 clubs. It's safe for now, and we've got the backdoor flush draw. The turn is the 7 of diamonds pairing the board. We're 1 card away from another double up, just about an hour after the first one, and with only 17 minutes left in the day. The river is the queen of clubs, allowing us to win a massive pot. Not only do we get the double up, we've gone from being on life support to having almost 55 big blinds. We're in great shape as the day comes to a close. It's just not quite over. We pick up pocket kings one more time 12 minutes later when it's been announced that we're playing our last hands of the night. A complete maniac with a short stack is open jammed 2 hands in a row blind because he wants to either double up and go into day 2 with a decent stack or bust so that he can play the last day 1 flight tomorrow. I'm happy to help him accomplish the latter goal. The opponent rips it for a 3rd time in a row from middle position, though he now has a lot more chips than the first 2 times. A rejam from the cutoff for 287,000 to isolate the opponent. No one else calls. The middle position player somehow wakes up with ace-7 of hearts, which isn't doing too terrible against us. The opponent's a little obnoxious and overconfident. I'm just shocked that he woke up with such a strong hand after getting it in blind.
You're dead. Put that on video.
Wouldn't mind.
You're dead. You should record. You're drawing dead.
I'm not sure if the opponent knows how math works, but pocket kings is currently in the lead, and we're very much in good shape. It's hard to avoid an ace 2 all-ins in a row with magnets though. The flop comes 6-6-4 rainbow. It's a good one for us, but the opponent has some backdoor draws to go along with the 3 aces that he can hit. The turn is the 10 of diamonds. We're almost there with just 1 card to come. Still, the opponent hasn't lost his confidence.
There it is. This guy runs too good.
I didn't run great on my first bullet or for the majority of the day today, but when it's counted, I've won some enormous pots to finish strong. We had 38,000 at the low point with only 10 to 12 big blinds multiple times, but we went on a tear the last 2 levels in order to bag 360,000. It's one of the larger stacks. We're bringing 60 big blinds into day 2. I'm thrilled to have survived. Wild day today. I was at the table of death with this guy, Nacho. We had, what were your thoughts on the table?
Yeah, it was pretty bad, to be honest. When you sit down and you have, I had 1 reg from Czech Republic, then Jason Kuhn, then Mamadi, then Brad Owen, you know, like, you just have to fucking play, neat it up. Like, I mean, I was like opening kind of tight, like whatever, you know, like I had 3 recreationals to my right, so I was like waiting for them to all to do stuff, you know. It's like, but it was horrible. That table was horrible. It was like 7 people I knew. I mean, like it's not normal for this tournament.
About a third of the players remain from our day 1 C flight. All 4 of the flights combined to play day 2 together, and we're playing until we get down to the money. My initial table draw for day 2 isn't ideal. It looks like I'll be playing 4-handed against Chance Corneth, who has a top 10 chip stack. He's almost for sure going to destroy me and the 2 other short stack players if we're all at the table for a prolonged period of time. Luckily, I'm told to go to the ballroom to get a new seat assignment because the event didn't get quite as many entries as expected, leading to multiple short-handed tables breaking before play even begins. We entered the arena eager to see what today has in store for us. 1,375 players remain out of 3,835 total entrants. The top 480 players get paid, so we need to outlast 900 people in order to at least min cash for 18,700. I'm more interested in the top prizes though. First place will earn an astounding 5,678,000. The top 6 players will all become millionaires. If we get 48th or better, we'll be guaranteed minimally a 6-figure score. I get my new seat assignment and head to the table. I'm not all that pleased because I recognize people. A lot of people. And I mentioned earlier, that's not a good thing.
What's up, Emma? Oh, shit. How you doing, man?
Hello.
Sorry.
We take a seat at another extremely difficult table. We're playing with Nacho Barbero again, except this time it's worse because he's on our left. Emma Zajmovic is a former WPT winner. Elliot Houdon won this exact event last year for $4.1 million. Then to complete the table, we've got Nidus on my right, who's another WPT champion, and Ashio on my left, who's a local high-stakes player that's been in a few previous vlogs. It's not quite as bad as our day 1 draw, but this is much tougher than average. 40 minutes in, Nacho Barbero 3-bet rips for 91,000, it's 15 big blinds. We get an in against him with ace-king suited. We've got the opponent covered with a chance to knock out one of the world's best. The flop comes 10-5-5 with 2 spades and it isn't too encouraging. We only have 2 overs and some backdoor draws. The turn is the 7 of hearts, giving us 8 fresh outs. The river is the deuce of clubs, ending the hand, causing us to lose a big chunk of the stack. It's not exactly how I wanted to start the day off, but it's nice to have 90-minute levels on day 2 and beyond, because we're able to grind our way back to about what we started the day with, as our table gets selected to play on the live stream for the second level, which is 4,000 to 8,000. We've already lost almost 300 players, and there's no search and rescue team looking for them. We just need to outlast another 600 more to make the money. Playing tournaments is stressful enough, but to do it on a live stream while playing against so many crushers while thousands of people are watching adds a whole new layer of stress. If you let the nerves of playing on the big stage cause you to make a big mistake, your run could be over in an instant, which is different than playing in a cash game live stream. While most of us at the table have a lot of experience playing under the lights, and it's fun at times, we all generally prefer to play at the outer tables where it's a more relaxed environment, especially as we get closer and closer to the money bubble. Here's a look at all the chip stacks. Nacho's back to being in the danger zone, while the 3 WPT champions are starting the level at the top of the leaderboard. We're right in the middle of the pack. The very first hand of the stream, we look down at ace-6 offsuit on the button. This falls well within the opening range from late position. The only concern I have is that we've got some shorter stacks on our direct left. I see Nacho only has 7 big blinds. I'd be willing to get it in against him for that amount, but I don't want to get it in for 30 big blinds against the opponent on his left. A min raise is 16,000. Nacho takes a look at some suited cards. They're not good enough though. He folds. Now the action's on JJ, who's the most intimidating opponent at the table, even amongst all the studs that we're battling with. JJ may look like a sweet woman, but there were reports of a unicorn getting murdered in Las Vegas earlier this morning, and based on that jacket, I think I know who did it. JJ defends her big blind, we're heads up in position, the flop comes Queen 9-4 rainbow, we completely brick it, I plan to check back or bet small. We don't get the chance, JJ comes out firing for 11,000. Leading into the pre-flop aggressor on this flop is an extremely unorthodox play that I wasn't expecting. Ace high might be best some of the time, but then as each future card comes out, we'll have to continue guessing if we're actually good. I fold the hand that has the lead, JJ gets away with the semi-bluff, she can add grand larceny to her long rap sheet, she takes down the pot and looks over her shoulder to make sure that no cops are around. Next we've got ace-10 offsuit under the gun. This is at the bottom of our range from this position, and with several players at the table who are capable of 3-betting a lot or putting us in tough spots. I don't mind letting go of some of the weakest hands that we're supposed to open, but I raise the 16,000 anyway. Last year's champion calls in the small blind. The big blind is not a folder. He's known for his aggressive style. He calls as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop in position. The dealer puts out ace-8-3 rainbow. We've got top pair and a decent kicker. Checks to us. We've got a big range advantage on an ace-high board, but there's not much to be worried about, so we don't need to bet a lot for protection. I bet 15,000. Small blind folds immediately. He wants nothing to do with this situation. The big blind lives up to his reputation for being a wild man who lives on the edge. He puts in a check raise of 42,000. We have removal of hands that he'd be doing this with for value, like ace-8 and ace-3. He could still have those hands in sets of 8s and 3s, but knowing the opponent, it's a lot more likely he's doing this as some sort of semi-bluff. I call to see how the turn plays out. The dealer shows us the king of spades. I love seeing it because there's almost no chance that the opponent improved on that turn, whereas we can still have ace-king and even pocket kings. Another high card shuts down the big blind. He checks to us. I don't know for certain, but I believe there's a good chance we have the best hand. I'd like to take back control of the pot and not allow the big blind an opportunity to see a free card if he has a hand with some equity like the one that he's got. If we're ahead, we should have a sizable lead, so we don't need to bet much. I bet 54,000, which is actually more than necessary. Nidus' charade is over. He gives up with a fold. I'm glad to win it without any additional resistance. It's a nice pot that we're able to take down in order to get the stack back up to what we started the day with. A bit later, Elliott gets a little squirrely with Jack 5 suited in the cutoffs. He raises to 16,000. We pick up Queen 9 suited in the small blind. We still play a handful of our suited kings and queens with medium kickers from the small blind after a late position raise. I call. The big blind is a new player at the table. She calls as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop out of position. It comes 9-9-8 with 2 hearts. We've got trips. I check to set the trap like it's day 19 on Naked and Afraid, and I'm starving. The big blind checks. The cutoff is going to test the waters. He bets 16,000 again. Most of the time we're supposed to be check raising with trips. I don't mind keeping in hands that are drawn slim though. I get the sense that there's a good chance Elliott's bluffing since most of the 9s are accounted for. I take the riskier path and just call. If either opponent has a hand like Jack 10, we might be able to stack them if they make the queen high straight. The big blind folds. It's down to heads up. The turn is the Jack of spades, which improves a lot of hands that might have c-bet. We even pick up a straight draw. I check. If the cutoff has us beat at this point, he'll be betting again. Instead, he checks back, so I feel even more confident that we've got the lead. The river is the 6 of clubs. It's mostly a blank, except 7-5 and pocket 6s improve. The most likely hand that I put the opponent on is Jack 10. Top pair should be able to call a decent sized bet. I go for it.
70?
Why, it's going big as well.
Goes for a big size.
I'm supposed to snap this, but something tells me you're pretty strong for some reason.
Good read.
When Elliott says that, I know for sure that we've got the best hand and I'm rooting for a call. It's an interesting spot for him because he doesn't really beat much. His kicker doesn't even play. I could have plenty of top pair hands with 2 hearts or Jack 10 and Queen Jack combos. I can also have straights and full houses. Elliott basically just beats bluffs, and I won't have many of those except combos containing missed hearts. Still, Elliott is definitely supposed to call. He tanks for a minute and a half before making a great fold. That's why he's able to win a huge tournament like this one, because he's able to follow his intuition in these kinds of spots to avoid losing more than he has to. We don't win the maximum, but we win another pot to get the stack to a new high point. We've got over 400,000 for the first time in the tournament. We'll have to keep adding to the stack to keep the pace though. Towards the end of the level, Elliott's under the gun. He min raises to 16,000. We're in middle position with suited Broadway cards and we want to play. I call. JJ's on the button with a hand that has us in bad shape. She calls. The big blind defends. We're going 4 ways to the flop. The dealer puts out King 9-7 with 2 spades and a club. We've got a gutter with a backdoor flush draw. It checks to us. We'll have sets of 9s and 7s plus King 9 suited combos. I take a stab betting 42,000. It's a little over half pot. I felt comfortable making this play since the initial pre-flop raiser elected not to bet, and there are plenty of good turn cards for us, including a few that give us the nuts. The button and big blind fold. That leaves just the pre-flop aggressor, who has a monster given the circumstances. He gathers chips and calls. We're heads up. The turn is the 5 of hearts. The opportunity to make a flush evaporates. Elliott checks. After getting the call on the flop, I start suspecting that the opponent might be stronger than his checks are indicating. I check back. The turn is the 8 of hearts, which I'm really happy to see. I wouldn't expect the opponent to have any 6s in his range at this point, other than maybe ace-6 of spades a sliver of the time. King 6 suited is a wider open from under the gun than I'd guess Elliott's playing, and he should have folded pocket 6s on the flop. In addition to that, we have removal to Jack 10, and have played this as if we had a straight draw the whole time, because we did. Elliott puts in a sneaky check with his straight. It feels to me like he might only have something like ace-queen or ace-jack with 1 spade. I don't beat those hands, but those hands probably can't call a bet. I pick a terrible time to bluff 85,000 to represent the nuts. The good news is that I didn't go with too large of a sizing. The bad news is that we're not going to win. Elliot's contemplating a raise, but he eventually just calls. I'm not happy as I get caught trying to make a move. The opponent reveals a straight that I wasn't expecting to see at all. You can see me make this very confused face because I didn't know the opponent was willing to open King 6 suited from under the gun, and then he got the dream run out to drill his backdoor draw after flopping the world. I lose a big chunk of my stack to dip to 30 big blinds. An orbit later, another new player takes Nacho's seat who recently busted. The new guy raises to 16,000 with an enormous stack of over 1 million. Elliot's on the button with suited connectors. He calls. We're in the big blind with non-suited connectors. We're getting a great price though. I call. 3 of us are seeing a flop. It comes 10-8-3 rainbow. We've got middle pair and a backdoor straight draw. I check. The initial pre-flop raiser checks, so it's likely that he won't have much. Elliot sees an opportunity to potentially steal this one, only having 5 high and backdoor draws. He bets 25,000. I'm not particularly enthusiastic about the situation, but after seeing the under the gun +1 opponent check, I don't have to worry about him as much, and I know Elliot's more than capable of finding creative bluffs if he's given the chance, so I'm not in a hurry to fold second pair. I call. The initial pre-flop raiser doesn't have much like we suspected. He folds, so it's down to just 2 of us. The turn is the ace of diamonds. It's the perfect card for the opponent who goes from having 8% equity to 25% with only 1 card to come. I check to the button. It's a good card for him to bluff because it puts me in a tough spot if I'm holding a 10 or an 8, so I'm expecting to see a bet frequently from the opponent, whether he has a strong hand or more likely just a draw of some sort. Elliot continues putting the pressure on with a bet of 37,000. This puts me in a very difficult position as my stack is now dipped below 25 big blinds if I fold, and blinds are about to increase to 5,000, 10,000. We can see in the top left of the screen that only 910 players remain, so after playing a lot of poker over the previous few days, we're only a few hours away from securing at least 18,700. Sticking around in this spot would mean that I'd have to rely on my read that the opponent's bluffing, and I'd have to commit a significant portion of our chips with only third pair, knowing there are only 2 8s in the deck that I'd like to see on the river. Every other card could be dangerous, including a 9 because Queen Jack, potentially with diamonds, is the most probable hand that I'd put the opponent on. I have removal to set and 2-pair combos with an 8. I don't think the opponent would fire again all that frequently on the turn with a hand like Jack 10, Queen 10, or King 10, since those have been downgraded to second pair. Queen Jack, on the other hand, picks up a double gutter with the ace on the turn. That holding has plenty of outs to our pair of 8s. The hands Elliot's representing are sets, 2-pair, or top pair hands, and I just don't believe him, given that we have significant removal. It's certainly possible that we're up against something strong, but I'm willing to bet that we're not. In fact, I'm willing to risk everything we've got.
Elliot opting to stay in 6th gear. Oh my.
Wow.
What?
Fuck. That sucks.
Wow.
How much, just to be sure?
I did not
Wow.
expect the snap jam
That's crazy.
from Brad Owen on the ace of diamonds turn. I mean,
Yeah.
196.
What a
is
move.
Is he like turning his hand to a bluff, or is this like some next level merge, Ash? That
Yeah.
I basically thought Elliot was going to have the exact type of hand that he showed up with, which is one that's behind but has a lot of equity. If I'd called in this situation, Elliot could either get there by hitting a diamond or deuce, or he could jam as a bluff if he missed, and I'd have a way more difficult time calling it all in with what could likely end up being 4th pair. Plus, Elliot folded a pair of jacks to me earlier, which was top pair. He clearly gives me a lot of respect for having big hands when I put a lot of chips in the middle. He'd probably even fold an ace and almost certainly a pair of 10s, since my check shove on the turn looks like I've got 2-pair or a set. Elliot's getting less than 2-1 on a call, and he needs over 3-1 for a call to be profitable. This is a situation in which sometimes he might only have 3 outs, and he doesn't like it. He folds, we win a big pot and clear out a ton of equity after putting it all on the line.
I think I had the best hand.
Yeah.
wow, how about that, Brad
What a
Owen
move.
Maybe not on the
with the
river.
turn check jam, taking it down. Elliot forced to fold his equity as we throw it to a very short WPT commercial.
We've got about 325 or so on the second break of today, coming back to 5,000, 10,000, and they're putting us on stream for 2 levels in a row, which is kind of tough. It's always nerve-wracking when you're playing around the bubble anyway, and then when you're on stream, it's just pretty nerve-wracking. In addition to that aspect, so we're about 350 away from making the money. Just trying to hang in there. We come back to play another 90-minute level on stream, which isn't normal for day 2. Usually they only make tables play one level on the big stage during day 2 because there are a lot of tables to choose from, but ours is definitely very interesting with all the WPT champions and other personalities. I'm completely card dead almost the entire 5,000, 10,000 level, just trying to stay afloat until we're dealt ace king offsuit in the hijack with about 27 big blinds. I raise it to 20,000. Emma's in the big blind with some Broadway cards. She's getting a good price and calls. We're heads up in position. The flop comes Jack 8 deuce with 2 clubs. We've got 2 overs and some backdoor draws. The big blind checks. We might have the best hand, so it's good to deny equity, and even if we're up against one pair, we'll have plenty of turns that can give us the lead or help us pick up equity. I bet 30,000, hopefully take down the pot right now. Each one's incredibly important as the stack has been dwindling while blinds are increasing. Emma's a savvy player and knows that she can't fold a gutter with 1 over. She calls. The pot's getting larger. The turn is the 4 of hearts. It's a blank. Neither of us improve. The opponent checks. Part of the reason that I bet flop was to keep control of the pot so that I can have a clearer path to getting to showdown. I check back in order to make sure that the size of the pot doesn't get out of hand. We don't want to get check jammed on and have to fold like we forced Elliot to do in the previous scenario that we went over. The river is another 8, which I actually like seeing. When Emma called our flop bet, there was a good chance that she had a pair of jacks or 8s. Now that another 8 is accounted for, it reduces the amount of combos that Emma could have containing a pair or better. Plus, all the draws miss. Not only do flush draws miss, but queen 10, queen 9, 10 9, and 9 7 all miss. None of those hands will be able to beat strong ace highs at showdown, so they'll feel obligated to fire as a bluff. I played with Emma multiple times, including in big televised cash games. I've seen her bluff rivers before when she knows that there's good opportunity. I've caught her before in some of those instances. If she bets, my mind is already made up on what we're going to do, and she's going for it.
Love this from Emma. Doesn't even need to go big.
He
Snap
snaps.
called though from Brad.
We catch Emma once more. She shows us one of the hands that I thought we were most likely up against. Sometimes she's going to show up with a combo that beats us, and a snap call is going to look pretty dumb. This time it works out for us to win the biggest pot that we've won so far today, and we've done it with only ace high. It's been a huge battle all day. We've gotten so few premium hands. We started out by losing a flip with one of them, and now the 2 biggest pots that we've won so far have come when we had a high card hand and 3rd pair. I'm just glad to still be alive and not have to play on stream anymore after doing it for 3 hours. Made it through level 3, 648 players left, so 168 away from the money, and that was just an extremely stressful 2 levels playing on there and just being really card dead. So it's been tough to just kind of stay afloat, but not too far away from the money, so trying not to do anything dumb, and hopefully the big hands are on their way. As the break comes to an end, they update the amount of players remaining. We're only 152 knockouts away from making the money. Our stack is at 305,000. We've got 25 big blinds. I'm just constantly looking up at the clock and trying to stay in it so that we can cash. We have to play ultra tight with a medium stack. Over 60 people get knocked out halfway through level 14. I continue to be pretty card dead, which isn't such a bad thing at the moment. It's nice to have easy decisions when other factors at play are making things more stressful than usual. The next level, I'm forced to make some moves, 3-bet jamming with pocket 9s and ace king offsuit. The opponent's folded, my stack has increased, but so have the blinds, so I still only have 25 big blinds. Time extensions have been introduced to deter excessive tanking in order to keep things moving along. We just need about 50 more bust outs to lock up 5 figures. This is extremely grueling and tense. I'm a bit handcuffed with my stack size, so I can't get involved much. The stack is going down as the amount of players we need to get knocked out is going down as well. We're 23 players away from the money, 15 minutes through the level. Then we're 16 away. Once we get down to 10 players away, we're all able to relax a little more because the bubble's within reach. We know that we don't have to last too much longer. It's a lot easier for the bubble to burst when there are hundreds of people remaining, as opposed to smaller field tournaments when we might have to wait hours for a knockout or 2. That could definitely still happen today though, because the min cash is so large, people are hanging on tight. we've got about 20 big blinds in front of us, we're in okay shape. I really like everyone at our table, so I hope the people that we've been playing with the whole day are all able to cash. Emma is certainly in the danger zone though. She has less than 5 big blinds. While we're 4 away from the money, Emma jams with pocket queens and gets called by the big blind's ace-6 offsuit. I'm rooting hard for Emma to get the double up, especially because the big blind has a huge stack and the pot won't make much of a difference for him whether he wins or loses. The flop comes 7-4-3 with 2 diamonds. Emma keeps her lead, but the big blind has a gutter and can still hit an ace to win. It's a sweat. The turn is another 3, getting Emma 1 step closer to a double up and at least a min cash. The river changes everything.
Oh my gosh. Go on, guys.
Tournament dealers in the World Championship, complete the hand you're on and hold up.
I believe you.
Finish the hand you're on and hold up.
Poor Emma.
It's a devastating way and time to get knocked out, but Emma is a consummate pro. She's had tons of success in her career in both tournaments and high-stakes cash games. With her knockout and another friend of mine, Michael Longcar, we're playing hand for hand. I've got 310,000 when we're on the stone bubble, just 1 away from the money. It means a lot to me to cash in the event the only 2 years it's been running. There aren't that many players who will be able to say that they've done that. I'd like for us to accomplish it as soon as possible, and there are lots of all-ins.
Please make your way to your seats. We have 4 all-ins to sweat at this time. It's gonna take a minute, so hang tight. First all-in is a aces full versus trips for a double up.
Well, that's not a very exciting first all-in. Now there are only 3 chances for the bubble to burst. Almost every player with a short stack in the room has got enough to sweat the action. We all get some good news.
Player at risk, we're gonna see what he has. Ace-Jack versus Ace-King. Ace-Jack is at risk. Ace-King versus Ace-Jack. We flop the flush draw with the Ace-Jack. We have the 8-9-6. Ace-Jack looking for a spade or a jack. And the turn. 4 of clubs for the turn. Still needs a spade or a jack to double up. And now we're going to see the river. Deuce of spades for 8.
I thought that surely we'd make the money with 4 all-ins, but now, after Ace-Jack suited sucked out on Ace-King, it's getting a little scarier. Still, with 2 more all-ins remaining, we've got a good chance, especially as 2 players get it in on the flop, with the player at risk in deep trouble.
Aces with the ace of hearts versus jacks full. Ace is at risk. He will need to find an ace to stay alive.
Don't you do it? I was going to quit if you do it.
Jacks full versus pocket full, or jacks full versus pocket aces, looking for an ace. 7 on the turn. We are going to the river. We'll need an ace to survive. Now we're going to see the river. 10 of hearts. That is going to be 1 elimination.
We get the bust out that we were looking for. 3 of the 4 players at risk won their all-ins, but a huge weight is lifted off of our shoulders.
Nice job, guys. Nice job. Please give yourselves a big round of applause. You're in the money.
Nice job. There you go. Nice job, everybody.
Championship.
That concludes day 2. It took a while to play hand for hand, so we're ending halfway through the level to bag up. While we've guaranteed a cash payout and back-to-back world championships, remember that I'm in for 2 bullets this year, so I haven't guaranteed a profit yet. I'll still need to outlast over 100 more players for that. This is at least a big step in the right direction, but I'm going to need some better luck if I want to make a deep run and have a shot at 6 and 7-figure payouts. We've made it to day 3 of the WPT World Championship, my favorite event of the year. It hasn't been easy to make it this far though. We had to survive day 1's Table of Doom, which was by a large margin the toughest in the field, with high stakes legends Nacho Barbero, Jason Kuhn, and Adrian Mateos. I had to battle with a short stack against the best players in the world. Luckily, late in day 1 I was able to catch some heat and turn that short stack into one of the bigger ones by the end of the night.
This guy runs too good.
The tough table draws kept coming, but I was willing to put everything at risk on day 2 against last year's champion.
Oh my.
Wow.
What?
Fuck.
Wow.
How much? Just to be sure.
I did not
Wow.
expect the snap jam
That's crazy.
from Brad Owen.
When facing other WPT champions, I trusted my instincts in high-pressure situations.
Love this from Emma. Doesn't even need to go big.
He
Snap
snaps.
cold though from Brad.
For most of day 2, we ran cold, but made the most of the cards that we were dealt, and ultimately, our patience was rewarded.
Please give yourselves a big round of applause. You're in the money.
Today, we come back to the win to resume our World Championship run. A lot of pressure's off, knowing that we have 18,700 already locked up. The work isn't done though. Maybe in previous years, I would have been happy with just a min cash in a big event like this one. That's not good enough anymore. My sights are set on having my name engraved on the biggest trophy in poker. In a field that had over 3,800 entrants, we come back with only 480 remaining and 36 minutes left in level 15. A lot of people are short, including us. That's okay though, we've been short quite a few times already and have done well to stay alive. First place is almost $6 million. If we make the official final table a 6, we'll get a 7-figure payout. If we get 48th or better, we'll lock up at least 6 figures. Here's a look at our table. We've got the shortest stack with only 20 big blinds, and there are multiple accomplished pros, but we've already been through the fire with tougher draws on day 1 and 2. This lineup oddly feels like a bit of relief, but it almost doesn't matter because we'll need to run good immediately, otherwise we could be headed for the exit soon. We find our table. I'm hoping it'll be a long day for us, and perhaps we can turn this bag with very few chips to start into a bag with a lot of chips to keep the dream of a major title and 7-figure score alive. The nerves are certainly going as we're about to begin. As always, I give Instagram updates so people can follow along with the action in real time, and we get off to a great start, increasing our stack by about 50% to give ourselves some wiggle room. Last night, so many people held on just to squeak into the money with 10 big blinds or less, who are now ripping it left and right to either double up or find the payout line. Less than an hour into play, we've made multiple pay jumps as almost 100 players have busted. While it's enticing to sit back and continuously ladder up, I'm going to make moves as I see fit to put us in position to win the event. If one of them doesn't work out and we get knocked out, I'll have to learn to live with the outcome. We pick up pocket 10s in the big blind halfway into the 10,000, 20,000 level. Under the gun, min raises to 40,000. The cutoff calls, we've got 470,000 total. It's less than 25 big blinds. We've got a strong pair, but we're going against the narrow range of the under the gun pre-flop raiser. I don't want to call just to set mine and turn our 10s into deuces. I 3-bet jam to risk our tournament life. Under the gun will often have 2 overs. He tanks for a long time. If both opponents fold, that'd be a decent outcome. We'd win a few orbits worth of chips without having to have the best hand at showdown. The player under the gun makes the call, which gets the heart racing. The cutoff folds. We see that we're up against ace-queen offsuit. It's a flip for a pot of over 50 big blinds. I'm 3-3 in all-ins for this event so far. This is a massive tiebreaker. The flop comes Jack 10-6 with 2 diamonds. We flop our first set of the entire tournament, and it couldn't have come at a better time. We can't quite celebrate yet though, as the opponent still has a Broadway draw and a backdoor flush draw. The turn is the 4 of spades, eliminating the opponent's chances of beating us with a flush. We just need to fade a king, and we'll go from having one of the shorter stacks at the start of the day to having a huge stack. The river is the 8 of diamonds, giving us the double up. It turns out we didn't need that set after all. We beat ace high to get the stack up, cracking the million mark for the first time. We were hoping to run good immediately in order to have a real shot. Even though I'm on very little sleep and I've got a ton of adrenaline and Red Bull coursing through my veins, this win helps us relax. Well, at least as much as possible under the circumstances. We're dealt pocket kings in the hijack 20 minutes later. Under the gun wastes no time. He raises all in for 15 big blinds. Under the gun +1 isn't quick to give up his cards. He has his neighbor slightly covered. He rips it for 430,000. The first 2 players to act are both all in. This is unbelievable. I wouldn't be shocked if one of them has aces, especially under the gun +1, but we've got the second best hand in poker, and we're not going anywhere. We've got both opponents covered by more than double. I jam for just under $1 million to make sure that no one else gets involved. It's already difficult enough to have the best hand at showdown in a 3-way all-in. We definitely don't want any additional opponents. No one else calls. We reveal our pocket kings, It doesn't come as a shock to either of the two players at risk. Neither of them are too happy though. The under the gun player shows that he has pocket sevens. Under the gun +1 finally turns over pocket jacks. It's a great situation for us to send two players home and win another pot over $1 million. Neither opponent even has an ace, which is fantastic because the flop comes ace queen 9, no one makes a set, and I'd like to keep it that way. The dealer obliges as the 3 of diamonds comes out. We just need to avoid seeing any jack or 7, and we'll scoop an enormous pot to have one of the biggest stacks in the tournament. The river is the deuce of spades. We knock out 2 players with second pair. Our ridiculously hot start continues. Day 1 and day 2 both started out slow. There's a nice change of pace. In less than 2 hours, we have almost 6 times the chips we began the day with. As our stack is climbing, the number of players left continues to drop. We're in for 2 bullets, but after making several pay jumps, we're finally guaranteed a profit with 21,200 locked up. The first full level comes to a close, then we're selected to play on the future table, which adds quite a bit more stress to the situation, but we'll have to be okay with it. Gold bracelet winner and Belgium's all-time money list leader with over 11 million in total live earnings is the chip leader at our table. I'm in a distant second. Other notables include Vogelsang, who recently joined us, and Bet on Drew, who's a well-known streamer and tournament grinder. Early on in the stream, Vogelsang raises to 55,000 from the cutoff. There's a small issue with the graphics during this hand, but we're in the big blind with Queen Jack offsuit. I call for 30,000 more. We're heads up out of position. The flop comes Jack 6-3 rainbow. We've got top pair against someone with over 30 million in career tournament earnings. I check. The opponent is known for taking his time to consider his options, while looking like he might hatch at any moment. Vogelsang bets 40,000 into 150,000. It's a small sizing that he's going to be making at a high frequency. Check raising with top pair is a good option because our hand benefits from some protection since we don't want to see aces and kings come out. Instead, I call to keep bluffs in. The turn is the 4 of clubs, which allows some straight draws to get there and in general will be better for our big blind range. At this point, we have no idea if our queen jack is best. Because of that and the fact that equities have shifted quite a bit with another low card on the board, I lead for 50,000 to ensure that one pair hands worse than ours don't check back. The cutoff is strong enough to stick around. He calls as the graphics finally appear. A pair of jacks with a medium strength kicker isn't necessarily a hand that I'm always looking to get 3 streets of value with, especially as the 7 of hearts comes on the river, putting 4 to the straight out there. I don't expect to see many 5s in the opponent's range, but I check to see if we can get to showdown without the pot getting out of hand. If Vogelsang bets anything reasonable, we'll make the call. The cutoff has plenty of showdown value with the second pair. Darth Sidious's nephew checks back. We show our pair of jacks in exchange for all the chips in the middle. We win a pot against another one of the world's best. Next we raise to 50,000 with 10-8 suited on the button. The big blind has some suited connectors that we've got dominated. He calls for a small amount more. We're heads up in position. The flop comes King 10-7 with 2 spades. We've both got a piece. The big blind checks. We don't want this pot to get too out of hand with our second pair. I check back. The turn is the 5 of hearts. It's a blank. The big blind checks once more. At this point, I feel comfortable going for value. I make a small bet of 40,000 to get calls from worse hands. The big blind can't strand his pair just yet. He calls, but I don't get the sense that he's all that strong. The river is the king of clubs, making it a lot less likely that he'll have combos containing a king. The opponent checks. I'm extremely confident that we've got the winner given how this has been played. I go with a large sizing of 200,000. I'm hoping that this will look extremely fishy and we can perhaps get called light if the opponent thinks that we're trying to buy the pot, since we often won't have a king either. The big blind has a decent hand to bluff catch with. He'd rather preserve his chips and look for a better spot. He makes a good fold. Another one goes our way. We're at a new high point in the tournament with 1.8 million in chips. In this one, the big stack at the table, Davidi, raises to 50,000. We're dealt 8-7 offsuit in the big blind. The opponent's a wild man who's the only person at the table who can knock us out of the event. He's also extremely good, so I could make an argument for just folding because 8-7 offsuit is towards the bottom of our calling range anyway, and there will be some tricky spots to play from out of position. I call, which is the most standard play. We're heads up. The flop comes 6-6-3 rainbow. We don't really connect. I check. The opponent has air like he will pretty frequently. It doesn't stop him from betting though. He makes it 25,000. It's the minimum, one big blind bet. It's annoying because we've got almost nothing except 2 overs and a backdoor draw, but we're getting such a good price, and we've got 26% equity. I suspect that the opponent might have something like 2 high cards fairly often. I call with intentions of possibly attempting a bluff at some point. The turn is the deuce of diamonds. 5-4 gets there, which is a hand that we'll have in our range that the opponent won't. I check called flop earlier with top pair, and led turn when a low card came out. That hand got to showdown and the opponent saw it. Here I lead turn for 1/3 pot to fold out the exact type of combo that WPT might have. It forces him to make a tougher decision. He's generally going to want to fold a large percentage of the time, but what may not be intuitive is that he can mix in calls and a lot of raises with his queen 10 as a bluff, even though he doesn't even have a draw. The Belgian pro finds the raise to 180,000 with nothing. We've got nothing though too. I fold immediately, knowing that I don't beat a single combination that the opponent might have, even if he thinks he's bluffing. I try to get creative, and I get punished for it, as WPT navigates his way perfectly through the hand to win the maximum from me. With just 281 players left, my buddy Bet on Drew picks up ace-10 offsuit on the button. He's got a shorter stack with 17.5 big blinds. The pro, who's sponsored by poker site ACR, announces that he's all in. I can't think of a better time to let you guys know about the online site WPT Global, where I'm regularly playing tournaments and cash games against the softest opponents that you'll find. If you sign up using the bonus code BRAD, you'll receive special deals, including a deposit match bonus up to $1,200 and $50 of extra cash right away if you deposit $100 or more. There's additional information in the description box below. Maybe I'll see you on there. Back to the hand, we look at king-queen offsuit in the big blind. You can see by my face that this is a stressful situation. We dominate a lot of the hands that the opponent's supposed to be open jamming with, like king-jack, queen-jack, queen-10, king-9 suited, and queen-9 suited. We do okay against his smaller pocket pairs, and even when he has ace-x, we'll often have around 40% equity. The opponent probably wouldn't have open shoved with his really good hands, like high pocket pairs and ace-king and ace-queen type of hands, because those are so strong that he'd want to get action and see a flop in position. Still, 440,000 is a big chunk of our stack that we might be risking. Even if we lose, we'll have over 40 big blinds though. King-queen offsuit is too good to fold in this situation. I call, expecting to be ahead often enough. This isn't one of those times, but we'll win a decent percentage against ace-10. My buddy's at risk. The flop comes ace-6 deuce with 2 hearts. There's very little drama. Drew has top pair with a 98% chance of winning, while we've got a 3% chance. That's right, there's 101% worth of equity possible in this hand. I start prepaying Drew in order to spark a miracle run out that'll give us the win. The turn is the king of hearts. We're part of the way there. It's one of the few cards that keeps us alive. Gives the opponent a flush draw though, so we've still only got a few outs.
Ooh, okay.
That's a very fair.
Brad Owen with the prepay.
King of
This
Hearts.
is scary.
Yeah, Brad's
scary.
a pro. He also knows what he's doing with that prepay.
Drew just kind of pointing it out.
4 outs.
You do have 4 outs. Doesn't find it.
Drew gets the double up through me. I lose almost a third of my stack. That one would have put us at the 2 million mark, but we still have plenty of chips, and a friend of the program stays alive while the rest of the field is dwindling. We can't let losing big pots affect us. We've done great just to survive this long into the day. There's no reason that things can't turn around either. A few minutes later, an opponent min raises to 50,000 from under the gun. We've got king-8 suited on the button. It's a hand that plays well in position. I call to see a flop. We're heads up. The flop comes 10-5-3 with 2 diamonds. We've got a flush draw with 1 over. Under the gun +1 isn't all that excited about it. He checks. We could bet or check. I don't like betting draws 100% of the time. I check back in this instance in case the opponent's slow playing a monster, and it makes it a little more likely that we'll get paid off if we do hit a flush, because the opponent would probably expect us to bet our big draws at a high frequency. The turn is the queen of spades. It's a blank. The opponent gets downgraded to 4th pair. He checks. After he's checked twice, under the gun +1 won't have big hands consisting of top pair or better very often. He can still have some small pairs and ace-high hands that are in the lead, so I bet 65,000 in an attempt to fold out some of those while building the pot in case we get called and we're able to hit. We have removal to king-queen and straight draw combos, which I also like. In theory, pocket 4s is supposed to call a small bet a lot of the time, but in real life, it's not common to see people calling with small pairs on a board like this. Under the gun +1 folds. we get our delayed semi-bluff through to add some chips to our stack and stay over $1 million. This isn't a particularly large pot, but each one is incredibly important as we get deeper and deeper with big pay jumps up ahead. It also helps get some confidence back after losing the all-in with King-Queen. The player in middle position raises to 50,000 in this one. We're next to act as we look down at King-Jack suited. This is close to a pure call for us. I match the bet. WPT calls in the small blind, the big blind calls as well. We're going 4 ways to the flop in position. It comes Queen 10-7 with 2 hearts. We've got an open-ended straight draw with 1 over. Checks to us. We definitely want to see a turn card with the amount of equity that we've got. I check back. The turn is the 9 of hearts. I'm happy to see it, but it's not quite a clean out because we don't have the nuts with 3 hearts out there. Checks to us once more. A straight is still a very strong hand and it won't be getting any better. We certainly want to deny equity from anyone holding a single heart. I bet 175,000. The small blind has an easy decision with 5th pair and multiple opponents. He folds. The big blind is the one opponent with a reasonable hand to hang around with, given the fact that he has 2nd pair with flush and straight draws. He knows that he could be drawing dead or slim, and he's not closing the action, so he folds. The initial preflop raiser also folds. A healthy pot containing plenty of chips from all the preflop action comes towards us. We're recovering pretty well after losing several $100,000 earlier. Our level on stream comes to an end. We lose some of our stack, but the damage is mitigated. We finished the 90 minutes in the same ranking we started, which is 2nd in chips at the table, while WPT still has a commanding lead. I'm just glad to be back at the outer table again, as only 258 players remain, and blinds are about to be 15,000, 30,000. Things don't quite go as I'd hoped at the outer table. I don't win a single hand the entire 90-minute level, and we finish with a much shorter stack. The good news is that over 50 players were knocked out, and we at least made some pay jumps. 201 remain, I think we're guaranteed. 27,000 right now. Lost every hand last level. So lost over half my stack. I've got 585,000. Coming back to 20,000, 40,000. Just at a really tough table. Tried to bluff Vogelsang. I think I opened middle position with ace-9 of spades. Vogelsang is a short stack. He calls in the big blind. Flop comes king 6-5, rainbow. He checks. I bet 60,000 again. He tank calls. Turn is the jack of hearts. He checks. Figure another Broadway card's better for me. I bet 225 to put the pressure on him. He had about 500,000 total, and he tanked to use a couple time banks, and then he ripped it in and just snapped a little bit. So gotta do some work and double up, but I'm not out of it yet. Just one double up and I'm back in it, really. After the break, our stack dips to 465,000 as we open jam on the button to try and steal the blinds with the mystery hand. The big blind is in the tank. He's got a larger stack and he's wondering if he wants to call a 12 big blind shove to possibly beat me and send me to the rails. It turns out he does. The opponent makes the call and shows ace-7 offsuit. We have him crushed with ace-queen offsuit. We woke up with a strong hand at the right time. Can we hold though? If we win, we'll have 25 big blinds. It all comes down to this. The flop is king 6-3 with 2 clubs. We've got the queen of clubs, while the opponent isn't holding a club at all. We're in good shape so far as long as we can avoid the 3-outer or running 5-4. The turn is another king. It's a bad card because the opponent picks up 6 chop outs. If another 6 or 3 falls, we'll be splitting the pot. The river is the 8 of spades. It looks too close to a 7 for my liking, but we get a key double up to stay alive in the tournament with only 5% of the entrants remaining. We're no longer under quite so much stress now that we've got 25 big blinds, but if we don't start adding to it, we'll have to continue regularly open jamming and 3-bet jamming. The cold streak unfortunately resumes after the ace-queen hand. I do my best to stay patient as we continue to make pay jumps. Finally, the table I'm at with WPT and Vogelsang breaks. I go to a new table where I've got just under 800,000 in chips. I got 35th in this event last year for a payout of 99,600. It's amazing to at least make the top 200 again this year, but man, would it be cool to run really deep and make $500,000 or more. These are the types of moments that I live for. There's nothing more fun than playing against so many of the top guys while having big payouts already locked up. What makes this even more special for me is that my brother's here filming the event for his first gig with WPT. He captures me 3-bet jam ace-jack offsuit from the hijack. I've got one of the shortest stacks left in the event with 865,000. I wouldn't mind a call so that I can have an opportunity to go into day 4 with a more manageable stack. Instead, the opponent folds. I also don't mind taking down pots uncontested to increase our stack. I don't get much to work with the last level of the night, but there are quite a few spectators now who want to see the action firsthand. It's a really exciting atmosphere. I'm always happy to interact with people and say hello in between hands, even when I'm nursing a small stack and the stakes are high. The last level finally comes to an end. I have mixed feelings about the day. It's a massive accomplishment to make 12 pay jumps in order to have 37,600 locked up and advance to day 4. There are only 132 players left. Early on, we had a huge stack of almost 2 million. I was hopeful that today was going to be our breakthrough and we'd potentially finish towards the top with a lot of chips. That's not quite the case. We bagged 730,000, which is only 12 big blinds when we return. Still, it's always special to make a day 4 no matter what the event is, but especially the WPT World Championship. We've already battled back from 12 big blinds and multiple points in this event. Hopefully we can do it once again, but we're going to have to do it sitting at the same table as several more of the world's best, including Lucky Chewy and 2009 WSOP main event winner Joe Cata, while one of the largest stacks in the tournament is on our left. Tune in for day 4 in the next vlog. I promise you won't want to miss it. We've survived 3 full days of the WPT World Championship to keep our dream alive of winning the World Poker Tour's biggest tournament of the year. Our path to get here wasn't easy. Every day we've been pitted against the absolute best players in the world, including bracelet winners and WPT champions with tens of millions of dollars in career tournament earnings. The sharpest minds in poker all showed up for the event, and even though we had to face them on the big stage with huge amounts of money on the line and thousands watching, we managed to hang in there and outlast 96% of the field. Only 132 players are left. Our toughest task lies ahead though. We've got a short stack with another formidable table draw. When I look at the lineup, I can't help but think about the 2009 WSOP main event because that was perhaps the most influential tournament on my poker career. 2 of our opponents today, Joe Cata and Andrew, aka Lucky Chewy, were the young guns back in 2009. All 3 of us were 21 at the time. Chewy got 18th for $500,000, and obviously Joe Cata won it for $8.5 million. But there was another story that was more impactful for me personally. A player named Ian Tavelli, who I grew up playing soccer with, made a name for himself in his first ever main event. We hadn't spoken in years, but he ran deep in the tournament as well. Very deep. With only 2 tables remaining, if Ian, Chewy, or Cata won, they'd be the youngest main event winners in history. It was amazing to watch this person that I was friends with make it to day 8, sitting on Ivy's left, and competing against so many other big-name guys.
Ian Tavelli, the youngest player left in the field, 21 years old, with pocket 9s.
Ian got into a ridiculous hand with pocket 9s opening from early position and immediately getting 3-bet with only 17 players left. Everyone wanted to make it to the final table, so they were all avoiding questionable situations. One player folded ace-king suited. Joe Cata was then in the blender with the dreaded jiggities. It's not a fun hand to wake up to after seeing a raise and a re-raise from the first 2 players to act, but he somehow gets away from disaster. Ian called the 3-bet to close the action, but he was in bad shape with the flop coming 6 high. They got it in with my friend being in huge trouble. Pocket kings held to eliminate Ian. Still, he got a massive payout of $500,000 for a 21-year-old Arizona State student. That's pretty cool. It was a big deal in my hometown. The local paper wrote up a big article highlighting Ian's story. After watching his success, I then became more inspired to take poker seriously. The next year it was me who made the local paper for winning a $100 satellite into the 2010 main event. If I hadn't seen Ian do well in the main, perhaps I would have never taken a shot at the $100 satellite, which was the biggest buy-in I'd played at the time. The next tournament I played was the $10,000 main event, and I crushed it on day 1, finishing with one of the largest stacks in the field. Unfortunately, I got boat over boated on day 2 to get knocked out. I was devastated that I wasn't able to capitalize on such a major opportunity at the time, and that I wasn't able to turn my $10,000 ticket into life-changing money. Today, I have another chance to do what I wasn't able to do as a 22-year-old. We're headed into day 4 of the WPT World Championship with $37,600 already locked up. I can tell it's going to be a good day just on the drive because we hit every single green light from the time we get off the freeway all the way to the time that we arrive at the win. We've already outlasted over 3,700 entrants. If we can outlast just 84 more, we'll secure a minimum of a 6-figure payout. If we can make the final table of 6, we'll get our first 7-figure score, while first place is well over $5.5 million. As I enter the room, it's a lot quieter than in previous days with way fewer people around. The lack of sound is replaced by more tension, stress, and pressure as the pay jumps are becoming larger and larger. Any single mistake could abruptly end hopes that everyone who still remaining surely has of hoisting the trophy at the end and winning millions. We find our bag that contains more air and fewer chips than I'd like. We only have 12 big blinds, but I'm happy to have made it this far. We fought hard and battled back from 10 to 12 big blinds at multiple points throughout this tournament already. There's no reason that we can't do it again today. Me and 2 other guys who I've rooted for and respected for years are all in the zone as we're among the first few to arrive at the table.
Joe,
It's going?
see your stack here.
It was very similar to yours, wasn't it?
Yeah, let's go. Let's run it up.
Let's go. Let's get him.
Chewy,
Let's get these
see
big
you, man.
stacks. You don't know, but it's a level of short stacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe and I are both going to need to get lucky in order to spin up our short stacks. Before my dad passed away, he made a lot of jewelry from reclaimed copper, mostly for family friends whose homes burned down in the 2017 fires that ran through Northern California. He made this necklace and gave it to me that I occasionally bring to important tournaments for good luck. I'm hoping it'll help me out today. Minimally, I'd like to make some pay jumps. There's one that's not far away to 41,900 that everyone's aware of, having the 7th fewest chips coming into the day. If I can survive long enough for 12 people to bust out to earn at least an extra 4,300, that's a pretty big win. I hadn't used a time extension the entire tournament, but that changes as I'm beginning to use them strategically now in order to ensure that I don't make a mistake and also so that I give other players opportunities to get knocked out before me. We haven't made the first pay jump, but we can't wait any longer as we pick up King Jack offsuit and hijack with 8.5 big blinds. I jam for 515,000. Chewy's in the small blind with a big stack. He calls, which I didn't want to see. Just winning the blinds would have been huge. The big blind is in the tank, considering whether or not he should also call or possibly re-raise. Each second feels like an eternity. We could be in terrible shape, but either way, our tournament life is on the line. It's just a matter of whether we're going to be heads up or if this is going to be a 3-way all-in. The big blind finally folds. We get some bad news.
King Queen, that's like the worst thing I could have heard. Fuck.
We're all in and completely dominated. It's going to be tough for us to win this one with only one live card.
Jack one time.
The flop comes King 4-4. We don't hit the jack, but we at least have a lot of outs that can give us the win or a chop. Plus, we have a main event champion in our corner rooting for us to stay alive.
There's ace. Ace or jack. Ace, jack, or 4.
We're down to one final card. We need to drill a miracle, otherwise our tournament runs over. If we only had a club in our hand, I'd feel a lot better about the situation because we'd have 9 additional outs. Instead, I'm doing my best to will an ace, jack, or 4 so that we can stay in the tournament. We disappointingly don't hit any of those cards.
Wow.
You got about the
I
king.
did not think a king was going to be coming.
Level of short stacks.
We get the last king in the deck to chop in the most unexpected way. Though we end up only increasing our stack by 1 big blind, it feels like a double up as we continue to hang on by a thread. Perhaps there's something to this level of the short stacks mantra that Kata keeps on repeating. Chewy takes the tough chop in stride.
You don't mind Brad sticking around.
I appreciate
two
it.
winners.
We're playing for lots of money at a fun table with 2 of the best ambassadors in poker. I'd like to stay here as long as possible. We don't have the luxury of being able to stay patient though. A few hands later, we pick up 8-6 offsuit in the big blind. The cutoff is a viewer named Adam. He min raises to 120,000. We've got 515,000 total. I call for 60,000 more. We're heads up out of position in a pot that we've got to win, otherwise we'll have less than 7 big blinds and we'll be in the small blind the next hand. The flop comes 10-8-4 rainbow. We've got middle pair. I'm elated to minimally have some piece of the board, but we don't know if we're even in the lead. I check. The opponent down bets is 60,000. We still haven't made the first pay jump of the day. We're only a few knockouts away, but we can't afford to wait for a situation much better than this. I I check raise shove for 395,000 total. The first 2 to 3 seconds are the toughest to get through. We at least fade the snap call, which certainly would have come by now if the opponent had a pair that beat us. It becomes more and more evident that we're in the lead. As much as I'd like a full double up, I'm not sure my heart can take another all-in, knowing the opponent will probably have 6 outs that we'll have to avoid on the turn and river. I'd be totally fine winning this one immediately without having to sweat. Looks like we're going to have to sweat at least a little no matter what, as the cutoff has taken a very long time to consider whether or not to call and possibly make this our last hand of the tournament, or fold to guarantee that we'll last a little longer. Part of me likes the fact that the opponent has taken a long time because we're killing time inching closer and closer to the pay jump. The different media outlets have all circled around like vultures, waiting for me to die. The stress of the situation couldn't be much higher than it is right now. The cutoff tosses in another time bank to prolong the anticipation. He buys himself 30 seconds, then tosses in one more time bank. He runs this shot clock almost all the way down before we hear his decision.
Kid's fault. I mean, there's no way you had that beat, right?
Damn.
You didn't have that beat, right?
If I have a pair, I call it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not a...
I'm glad Kata didn't somehow find his way into seeing a flop, otherwise we probably wouldn't be in the tournament anymore. Instead, we increase our stack by a significant amount while reaching our first big objective of the day. We make the initial pay jump of day 4 to have 41,900 locked up. It's a big accomplishment given the circumstances coming into the day. The next pay jump occurs when we get down to 104 players. We won't be making it that far unless we get some more help because we still only have a few big blinds and we're going to be putting them to use. We're dealt ace-king offsuit. It folds to Joe Kata in the small blind. He barely has us covered as he open rips it for 695,000 effective. We don't have a decision. I snap call. Joe reveals that he has queen 9 suited. It's unlucky for him that we wake up with a hand that's as strong as it is. Joe isn't losing hope though.
I'm good at these.
I know. That's what I'm worried about.
Apple's worries keep deepening, so we can... Oh, that's going to be tough to win.
We get a king right in the window to all but slam the door on Kata's chances of winning. The turn is the jack of clubs, opening that door right back up and giving the small blind 4 brand new cards that could knock us out.
Oh, we got outs.
No.
Always outs, always a swap. 10. Nice.
Okay.
You got
Thanks,
me
man. No.
It's close.
I think you had like 9.
Chicken.
It's always scary when you're at risk in a 60-40 all-in against one of the best to ever flip, but we make top 2 pair to not only stay alive, but get a huge double up through the 4-time gold bracelet winner.
I think to myself when I said it was a level of shorts back, and you're shorter than me,
I can't quite describe the feeling that I've got now that we're at least somewhat out of the danger zone. We've reached objective number 2 on the day, which is to accumulate enough chips to actually have some playability. We've got over 1.4 million in front of us. We haven't had quite this much in our stack since early on in day 3. It's well over 20 big blinds at the moment, and we're an hour into the level with just 114 players remaining. I wish that we didn't have to go through Joe to get to where we're at because he's a great guy to have around. He ends up busting in 108th place, just shy of the next pay jump. Joe isn't too fazed by being knocked out though. Hopefully we'll see him in another deep run at some point in the future. The first level of the day comes to an end. Our table gets selected to be put on the main stage. This will be my 3rd day in a row playing on the featured table. It's definitely not my preference because it just adds to the stress and intensity that's inherent when playing for 5, 6, and 7-figure payouts. I'm going to do my best though. With blinds increasing to 40,000, 80,000, we've got less than 15 big blinds, while a few of the biggest stacks remaining are at our table, with one player having already crossed the 10 million mark. We're on a $5,200 pay jump bubble with 105 players left when the hijack raises to 160,000. A fairly late position raised from one of the larger stacks doesn't necessarily indicate tons of strength, which is why we're in so much trouble as we're dealt a hand that's good, but absolutely dominated in this instance. I could make an argument for folding in order to avoid this spot that's a little murky with our stack depth in hopes to make it to that $47,000 payout that we're one knockout away from. I could maybe make an argument for calling since it would still give us a good chance to make the pay jump and we at least see a flop likely in position without risking our whole stack immediately. I can also make an argument for jamming in order to win 4.5 big blinds without seeing a flop and increasing our stack by almost 1/3. We're likely going to have to get it all in soon anyway if we really want a shot at making the top 30 or so in this event. I got 35th last year for 99,600. I'd like to improve upon that. I use the time bank to consider our options more carefully and allow more time for someone to bust out before us. There's a lot riding on this decision. I definitely don't want to rush it and accidentally go with a choice that I'll regret.
Chat, there is a world in which Brad rips this in here.
Yeah, with the hijack raise and the cutoff, he likely has a very good hand to jam here with the ace-10. Unlucky for him, though, if he decides to go with it. Let's get some very bad news.
Big spot for Owen, just taking his time as he knows we are on a pay jump. 104th will receive an extra 5,200 on top of what they're already guaranteed. So just using a few time banks before taking the rejam spot makes a ton of sense. It's a pretty good hourly. You know, you waste the 60, 90 seconds, ladder up an extra 5K.
What a life.
It is a pretty sweet life, but it'd be a lot sweeter if the opponent didn't have a monster and if we had a slightly easier decision. At this point, I'm pretty sure I'm going to 3-bet jam. The hijack can have so many weak holdings that he won't want to call a 3-bet shove with. I use another time bank. If we can make an extra 5,000 by waiting 2 minutes, it's certainly worth it. It's $2,500 a minute. The way I'm doing this is actually not optimal though. If you ever find yourself in this spot where you're on the pay jump bubble, what you want to do is maybe use a time bank to consider your options. Then once you know that you're going to jam, you just 3-bet almost all your chips, but not quite all of them. Pretty often, the opponent will be folding anyway, so you get to hold on to your remaining time banks. But if he does jam, you can use your time banks at that point, plus you'll get an extra 30 seconds. I use my third to last time bank. It doesn't matter a whole lot in this particular scenario because we can see that the opponent won't be folding to a shove. I also rarely use time banks normally, so I'm not too concerned about running out of them, but I definitely would use an extra 5,000. I re-raise almost all my chips, but I leave myself with 10,000 and 2 time banks. The opponent announces that he's all in. I soak up possibly my last few moments on air while I keep an eye on the shot clock. I use my second to last time bank. I hate having to do this type of thing, but it's so important to ladder up and potentially get an extra half of a buy-in and a 10K. This could easily be my very last hand of the event. It's tense and nerve-wracking. I'm still in good enough spirits to crack a joke though.
I have a lot of respect in.
I mean, you could make the best fold in history if you want.
Fuck.
Don't tempt him with a good time.
Yeah. Good for me then. Huh? I mean, there's no way I'm not. I either have like 5% or 30%.
This is a smile with someone who knows they're in good shape. I can't blame the guy. The good news is that we're not up against aces like the opponent was implying. We're at closer to 30% equity, we'll win outright 24% of the time, and we'll chop 5% of the time. We're not completely dead. I use up every ounce of clock I can, then I get it in for the remaining 10,000. I'm somewhat relieved to see that we've at least got a live card. Still, it's not ideal. We're going to need a lot of help, otherwise our run is over. The flop comes 8-5-4 with 2 diamonds, we don't improve and the opponent has a backdoor flush draw. I'm shaking my head. After 2 bullets and several days of playing, surviving with a short stack in tough situations, it's looking bleak. It's hard to be too upset with what's still a big payout, but we're getting closer and closer to 105th place with no pay jump being made. On the other hand, Chris is feeling pretty good about life with an 83% chance of winning outright. Even if we somehow manage to drill a 10, he'll still have plenty of chips. The turn is the 9 of spades. It looked a lot like a 10 when it came out of the deck, but that was by design to make this moment even more agonizing. There will be no opportunities for a chop. We need 1 of 3 remaining 10s, otherwise we're out. It's been a fun tournament. And it's not over.
Oh,
Bam.
my God. Holy shit.
Wow.
Wow.
okay. 10 ball corner pocket.
Wow.
I was expecting to be on my way to the payout line already. We get bailed out in about as big of a way as possible. Rather than bust, we win the biggest pot that we've played the whole tournament to be at a brand new high point. We came into today with just over 700,000, and now we've got over 2.5 million and 32 big blinds with 105 left. I'm no longer thinking about the pay jump to 47,000. We probably have a top 50 stack where the payouts are 6 figures or more. It's hard not to think about maybe my dad helping me out with that one. It's such a big emotional swing from being deflated to being ecstatic. With every major tournament run, you have to get lucky at some point along the way. I didn't run particularly well the other 3 days, but it appears I've saved all my run good for day 4 when it matters the most. I actually prefer not to have any big decisions after a potentially life-altering river card comes out, so I can have time to settle down and process the situation, but we don't get the chance. The very next hand, we're dealt King Jack suited in the hijack. We're playing it. I raised to 160,000. Chewy's in the small blind with something that's slightly better. He calls. We're heads up in position. The flop comes Queen 6 Deuce Rainbow. We've got 1 over and some backdoor draws. Chewy checks. We might be able to steal this one with a small bet. There are plenty of good turn cards that'll give us equity if we're behind. I bet 125,000. The small blind has 1 over and a backdoor flush draw as well. He'd like to see a turn. He calls, which is a bit worrisome on a dry board. The turn is the 4 of spades. The opponent checks. I literally just got these chips and I'm not interested in giving them away immediately if the opponent has a strong hand. I check back. The river is the deuce of clubs. The small blind checks once more. I give up and check again, figuring we probably don't have the winner. That assessment's correct. Chewy wins the pot worth $750,000 without pairing either of his cards. I don't mind it too much. I still prefer to not really play any additional hands, maybe for about 80 more knockouts or so. Not much happens until we break the top 100. You can see how many players remain in the upper left-hand corner. We made the pay jump to be guaranteed 47,000, and we're close to the next pay jump up to 53,500 once we get down to 88 players. We pick up ace-8 suited under the gun. I raise to 160,000. Every hand is incredibly important at this stage of the tournament, and when we open from early position, we're susceptible to getting resistance. Thankfully, everyone has garbage and easy decisions to fold. We get it through to stay above 2 million in chips. Remember, every time we go through the blinds, we lose 200,000 in chips, so we need to try to win more than that to keep the pace before the blinds go up again. A bit later, Chris wakes up with another strong ace. He's in the cutoff and raises to 160,000. It's nice for Chris that he's getting dealt hands towards the top of his range in late position, while other people are regularly getting dealt hands that are good 3-bet candidates right behind him. In this case, the button re-raises to 460,000. It's an interesting situation that's made even more interesting when we look down at pocket jiggities in the small blind with 26 big blinds. Even if we had 40 big blinds, we'd be 4-bet jamming in this spot. We've got the 4th best hand in poker. The cutoff will have a wide range, opening the door for the button to 3-bet light as we see he's done. We have a spot set up perfectly for us to rip it. It's just always scary putting chips at risk and potentially getting knocked out of the tournament. We have to play each situation to the best of our ability and be okay with the outcome though. I 4-bet shove, everything's good, until we see the graphic pop up for the big blind who somehow has kings. After seeing a raise, 3-bet, and cold 4-bet jam, the big blind doesn't immediately fold like he should be doing with almost every hand that isn't flipping or beating us. Without seeing the cards, I already know that we're in trouble.
Such a slam dunk shove for Brad there to pick up all those extra chips and just waking up with a very strong hand, and then unfortunately big blind just waking up with it here.
About 3 to start. Could be a little off.
Brad with the jiggities. Running in to the Django's as Ankit does take the reshove spot. And I think Brad knows, given the action in front of him, as open 3-bet. Brad with the 4-bet jam.
Very interesting.
Ankit
I had a snap.
with the 5-bet.
This is Brad's hand though, the jiggities. It gives him a little extra equity.
It's not looking good as we're at risk against one of the top stacks and we're dominated. A jack was folded, so we've got 1 out remaining. The graphic in the top left says there are 90 players in the field, but it's lagging a bit. There are actually 89 left, so we're on another pay jump bubble with little hope to stay alive. The flop comes Queen 10-3 with 2 hearts. It's not what we wanted to see, but we've got some backdoor draws. These all-in runouts are slower on the feature table than they are on the outer tables. To make sure that the cameras and graphics are correct, it usually makes things more painful when I'm at risk and behind, wishing there wasn't going to be additional video of me being eliminated, but in this exact moment, dragging things out is somewhat beneficial.
Oh, nice.
No rigging this time.
Oh, there we go. Just heard he made a pay jump.
There are a number of turns that could help us out, including some red ones. The dealer puts out a black 10 instead. We had some magical moments throughout the event. It was tough to make it this far, battling with so many of the top players. I wanted to improve upon my 35th place finish that I got last year in this tournament. I thought that I had a good chance after getting some key double ups early on in the day, but it's all coming down to one last card. I stand up to prepare for a quick exit. As I do so, I take the mic pack out of my pocket, and you can see that the necklace that my dad made for me falls out of my pocket without me realizing it. My good luck charm is gone when I need it the most.
Doesn't find it, chat. Not to be this time.
Hey, good game, Brad.
Handshakes all around. Brad Owen with back-to-back deep runs in the World Championship. A top 100 place finish.
Good game, bro.
Ultimately, coming up short. 4-bet jamming the jacks and just running into top of range. Out of the big. Going home with $53,500 for his efforts.
Started with 3.
Yeah, it's painful, but amazing run.
Getting eliminated from a tournament is never fun. This run in particular is especially bittersweet, but with every event like this one, we get stronger and gain experience in high-pressure situations, playing for a lot of money. We outlasted 3,747 players. I was in for 2 bullets, so the profit is over $30,000 for just a few days of work. It's been an amazing month already, with this payout and a 3rd place finish for over $100,000 in a different 10K event earlier on. I've gotten 2 of my top 5 biggest tournament cashes in only a few weeks. The problem is that I'm still hungry for more. I get the chips from my WPT World Championship run. You won't see me cash them out though. There's one last big event on the schedule, and I'm about to risk everything I just won to play it. Just fire in the 50K. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed my WPT World Championship run. Also, for those of you wondering, I did get that necklace back from my dad. I went back and I got it, so luckily that's with me. All right, guys, hope to see you around. Good luck at the tables, and I'll see you next time.